We are on record today following the filing of an emergency petition yesterday requesting the removal of one child in placement in foster care and placement of a number of other children with a legal parent. Their there's a respondent father replacement with that father. And that order was signed last night. It has been circulated to all of the attorneys who have had an opportunity to review that with their clients. And I look forward to developments as part of our preliminary hearing this morning after appearances, beginning with our guardian ad litem.
Good morning, Nicole Underwood, appearing as the legal guardian ad litem for the children.
Ms. Sasha Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Linus.
And then Salinas with the department.
Michael McFarland, representing father, Mr. Four. Please introduce yourself, Christopher.
Christopher Four.
Karen Dumont from mother, Miss Four.
Your name, please.
Brittany Four.
Thank you. All right. We've also asked Ms. Berger to stay with us on behalf of a potential father of the youngest child in this case. Ms. Thomas, do we have his name? Do we?
Your Honor, on the petition, there's a name that was provided to the workers, I believe, about a potential putative father. It came to my attention this morning that apparently mom has provided the department with other information. As you're speaking with Ms. Dumont, it seems that there's perhaps an Andrew Casares who may be the putative father and is interested in DNA testing.
All right. So thank you for joining us, Ms. Berger, and that will potentially be your client in the event that he's determined to be the legal parent.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Very good. All right. So let's go to our attorneys for the parents. Would you please confirm whether or not your clients have received the petition, articulate any potential Native American heritage searches that need to be done in some of the other preliminaries, Mr. McFarland?
Yes, sure. My client has received the petition. He would waive his reading in court. He does believe his mother's indicated to him Native American heritage on her side. She is alive and she can be contacted regarding that. It's my client's intention, Your Honor, to admit the allegations in the petition and ask that we proceed to a creation of a case service plan and a disposition entry on that. My understanding is his biological children with mother are with him, and that's the intent for them to remain in his custody. His plans are to go over to Hillsdale County, where the divorce took place, and ask for physical custody there.
Do you know, are there any other cases that would concern these children, or is it just the Hillsdale case?
Just the Hillsdale case, my client informs me.
All right, Ms. Dumont, have you talked with your client about whether or not she would like to exercise her right to have the petition read onto the record in its entirety, or if she would waive that?
Your Honor, she would waive that. She has received a copy and we've reviewed that. She intends on pleading no contest to the allegations contained and does want to request voluntary case services between now and the next court date.
Thank you. Does she know of any potential Native American heritage in her family?
None, Your Honor.
Good. And of any other cases that would concern any of her children other than the Hillsdale case?
No, Your Honor.
Or if I might add, I have advised my client of his rights. I presume the court's going to be doing the same again.
As part of a plea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. All right, one thing that doesn't come up during the plea itself is that any legal parent who is a respondent in these proceedings has the right to an attorney, which is why we have these attorneys with you here today. They will be with you in all subsequent hearings as well, and be able to assist you in presenting your case. What is the reason for the request for no contest plea?
No responsibility.
All right, could you give me a little more detail on that? Is it a particular allegation or?
Your Honor, with regards to the factual allegation in number 15, I think especially that's definitely not true. And then also with regards to the drug screen that was done today, I don't think necessarily to plead but no contest at this point.
All right, do you, can you hear her okay?
Yeah.
All right, could you articulate a little bit more on that point, because that's something that's not really in the record or anywhere else?
Yes, Your Honor, I do believe she was drug screened today by her probation officer, and there was a few things found in that drug screen. She indicates to me that she's ready to plead no contest with regards to the allegations. We've discussed them. She does believe that the caseworker could prove at least one by 51%. So.
All right. Your position, Ms. McFarland, if any?
Support whatever her attorney and her have decided.
Ms. Thomas?
I think, Your Honor, I do believe that there are grounds for possible criminal liability in this case, and we are prepared to put on a factual basis.
Very good. Any position on that, Ms. Underwood?
Yes, I believe at this point in time, it is in the best interest of the children for the youngest to be removed, as well as the children to be replaced, the other children to be placed with their fathers.
Would you find it in their interest if the court were to accept a no contest plea from mother, understanding that there may be some criminal liability associated with allegations of trafficking, as well as a positive drug screen this morning that could impair her presentation?
Yes, Judge.
And for me to accept a plea by Mr. Four as well, as it relates to the other children?
Yes, I believe that that's appropriate at this time.
Great. Anything else before I take the plea? Actually, let's deal with are you going to be requesting a DNA test as it relates to Mr. Casares?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Any objections to that?
None.
No.
All right. Do you find that to be in the interest of the children, Ms. Underwood?
I'm sorry, Judge?
There's been a request to allow the department or order the department to facilitate a DNA test for Mr. Andrew Casares and the youngest child to determine whether or not he's a legal father. Do you find that to serve the child's interests?
Yes, Judge. Thank you.
Very good. All right. I'll need you both to listen carefully as we make our way through the advice of rights associated with your decision to enter a plea this morning. Mr. Core, that you wish to enter a plea taking responsibility for the allegations in the petition. That just means that you're going to be admitting what's in the petition and asking for services.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Brittany Ford, is it true that you also would like to admit what's in the petition by way of no contest plea? Yes. Okay. No contest plea means you wouldn't have to go line by line admitting everything, but that I would take those allegations in the petition as essentially true and ask the department to organize services around those. Do you understand that?
Because I'm not saying that. I don't
Your
want
Honor,
to
she's
assume anything is
indicating-
true.
She's indicating that some of the
That's absolutely not
allegations
true.
are not true, but we did discuss that just one had to be found true. So she understands that.
All right. I appreciate that inquiry. Are you satisfied with that to proceed, Ms. Thomas?
Your Honor, as you're well aware, I'm pretty, I guess, conservative when it comes to these things, just because I often have to deal with the appeals. I want to ensure that mom's rights are protected. She has a right to a trial to dispute these allegations. I don't want to counsel mom on that point, but I'm going to note that. I don't know that we're in a position for a plea.
I understand.
Okay.
So Ms. Ford, it is important that you understand that I would be evaluating all of those facts that are in the petition. You wouldn't have to say anything either one way or the other about it. But part of what I'm going to go over with you is that we're going to put a plan together. The department's going to put a plan together to try to help support you in those areas. And I will consider those true for purposes of our hearing. Do you understand that? Do you wish to enter your no contest plea understanding that? Ms. Underwood, are you satisfied with that for purposes of me moving forward?
I am satisfied after the clarification and confirmation by the mother, yes.
Thank you. All right, Mr. and Ms. Ford, if I accept your plea either by no contest or just as you've offered it, you are giving up your right to a trial by judge or trial by jury. You're giving up your right to have the petitioner prove the allegations in the petition by a preponderance of the evidence. the right to have witnesses against you appear and testify under oath at trial, the right to cross-examine those witnesses with the assistance of your attorneys, the right to have the court subpoena any witnesses that you believe could give testimony in your favor. Do you understand that you'll be giving up or waiving the rights I've just indicated to you if you enter no contest plea and or simply a plea? All right, I'm sorry, Ms. Ford, was that a yes or no? Sorry,
Yes.
Thank you. With regard to the consequences of your plea, or in other words, what will happen, the court will do the following. There will be continued investigation by the caseworker to see what the problems are in your family and how and whether they can be solved. The court could dismiss the case if there's no need for the court to be involved. If it appears that there is a problem that may be solved, the court can make the children temporary wards of the court, place them with mother or father or with relatives or in a foster home, and order programs for you and your children, such as counseling, drug and alcohol treatment, assessments, and parenting classes. If it appears that you will not be able to provide a proper home for the children, excuse me. Seems like whenever I start talking, I do not. If it appears that you will not be able to provide a proper home for the children in the reasonably foreseeable future, the court could terminate your parental rights. With regard to the plea itself, the plea can also later be used as evidence in a proceeding to terminate your parental rights. Do you understand the consequences of your plea, Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have any questions about any of the information I've given you so far, Mr. Ford?
No.
Ms. Ford?
No.
Well, we already know that Ms. Ford has tested positive for some substances. Ms. Ford, do you believe that what you've tested positive for is getting in the way of you understanding what you're doing this morning?
No.
All right. Mr. Ford, are you under the influence of substances or anything else that could get in the way of you understanding what you're doing this morning?
No, ma'am.
All right. Is anyone making you admit to the allegations in the petition, Ms. Ford?
No.
Mr. Ford?
No.
Has anyone threatened you in order to get you to admit to the allegations in the petition, Ms. Ford?
No.
Mr. Ford?
Nope.
Would you say that anyone has promised you anything in order to get you to enter a plea today, Mr. Ford?
No.
Ms. Ford?
No.
Would you say your decision to enter a plea is one you've made of your own free will, Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Very good. All right. Mr. McFarland, traditionally, your client would place the admissions on the record. Which of the paragraphs would you like me to evaluate for that purpose?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I'm looking through. It will be the paragraphs that states that he knew of mother's condition and he did nothing effectively to intervene, which would constitute negligence. In addition to the prior criminal history or the CPS history. So 22 is a prior CPS history. And just a second here, that would be number 19. He's allowed Brittany for access to her children despite DHHS recommendations not to allow it. And number 20, he's aware of her substance abuse and he continues to allow Brittany unsupervised access to all the children. And then 18 also, which is he is not a perpetrator, however, there are significant concerns for his ability to parent. Now we'll take that back without oversight from the court. So he will accept any and all assistance that can be provided through a case service.
Are you satisfied with the factual? Well, we've got to do the factual basis for the no contest plea, so let's go to that next.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will have Ms. Salinas sworn in to provide factual basis. Ms. Salinas, can you state your role in this matter or how you were familiar with this case?
I am the CPS investigator in the case.
And the petition that is before the court today, did you draft that?
Yes.
And as the investigator in this matter, how did you learn about the allegations that you have included in the petition? So that's, I'm wondering more about your investigatory process. So whether that's contacting family members, having eyes on, anything of that nature.
Yes, so I verified the children in the school, and then I made contact with Brittany and with Chris.
And in your petition, you've indicated that you made several attempts to engage with Ms. Ford to provide services. Can you briefly elaborate what those attempts were and what services were offered?
So there were multiple attempts to engage with Brittany, but she did not want to cooperate with me. There were many times when I would ask about her whereabouts, and she would lie about her whereabouts.
And was that through like a phone call or a text message or how?
A phone call.
And you've also indicated that she, I guess maybe during one of the times she did communicate with you, she reported to having received her income tax money, but that within a very short amount of time, that money was expended and she still had not provided her children with basic needs.
Yes.
And there's an allegation that there are concerns that Brittany was under the influence while caring for her children. Can you elaborate more on that?
With my interaction?
Yes, it says that during unannounced visits, Brittany was under the influence while caring for the children.
Yes. So there was one time I went to the hotel because Brittany asked for assistance. So I went to the hotel to assist her. And then during this, she seemed to be under the influence. And then Chris showed up at the hotel because we asked him to come and pick up the children. And he even stated that she was under the influence.
And were you able to verify that with any voluntary drug screens?
No, she refused.
You indicated in your petition that maybe the morning of Easter, there were people over and there was a physical altercation between attendees at a gathering and one of the minor children was also harmed.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little more about how you found that information out?
So I received a new intake the day after Easter, I believe on the 1st, stating that Brittany was involved in a domestic incident and her child was struck during this incident.
Were you able to speak with that child?
Yes.
Okay. And did they confirm that allegation?
Yes.
Were you able to speak to any of the other children?
Yes.
And during your interactions with the older, there's an allegation in here that the first complaint that came in was that mom was providing Billy Ann with vapes and alcohol. Did you confirm that with Billy Ann?
Yes.
Is there any other details that Billy Ann shared with you about her experiences with her mother?
Yes. She shared incidents that involved physical abuse. She stated that there was an incident where she was struck in the jaw to the point where she thought that her jaw was broken. She has stated she has witnessed mom use substances in front of her multiple times. And mom making inappropriate comments about allowing men to come over and do whatever they wanted to her.
Were there any other
This is the truth.
Were there any other allegations about potential sex trafficking of herself or her children?
No.
One of the allegations also is that Brittany had failed to seek appropriate medical attention for her youngest child, that there were obvious concerns for this baby, labored breathing, and that mom reported she would take the child.
Yes, so I made contact with mom via phone call, and I could hear in the phone call a really concerning cough, and we stated that, hey, you should go and take this child to go see a doctor. A few days later, we went and we seen the baby and we noticed the labored breathing, and we stated then and there that this baby needs medical attention right away. The next day, she stated that she took him to the ER. We called all the ERs in Adrian. We called all the urgent cares, and they said that they had no prior knowledge of her admitting the child. And then we made face-to-face with Brittany the next day. She said that he was prescribed medication and he had solution for a nebulizer. She would not provide us with proof of the medications and the solution along with discharge papers. But she said that he was getting better, but as we were there, we noticed that he was still coughing and breathing the same way. So,
Mary, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Salinas, I'm gonna, you can't do it with my phone. Were you part of the pickup yesterday for the child?
yes,
And Does this image that you're looking at on my phone, can you describe for the record what you're looking at is?
Can I show you?
Well, not yet, I mean,
Okay.
but from this like screen.
Yes,
portion,
yes.
Can you tell us?
It is a video of Kai in his car seat, of his breathing.
Okay, and you took this video?
My coworker Chelsea
Okay.
did, yes.
And what was the purpose of taking this video?
To capture how bad his breathing was in that moment.
May I make the video for the record?
Objections?
No objection, I've been shown the video.
No objection.
No objection.
So that raspy sound, that's the child's breathing?
Yes.
Thank you. And, I'm providing Ms. Salinas with a one-page document. Ms. Salinas, can you tell me what that document is?
So this is discharge papers from after we dropped him off at the hospital. It states that Kai tested positive for parainfluenza virus, along with a bacterial pneumonia.
And then, let's see. Can you actually just read the instructions on that discharge summary in its entirety?
Yeah. Your child was evaluated in the emergency department today due to cough and increased work of breathing. He was found to be positive for parainfluenza virus as well as diagnosed with bacterial pneumonia. We recommend continuing to monitor for symptoms of increased work of breathing, including and subcostal retractions or breathing fast. To treat his pneumonia, he was given a dose of amoxicillin here in the emergency department, but he will need to complete his course outpatient for 5 days. His other labs were largely unremarkable. He was found to be positive for both cocaine and amphetamines in his drug screen. There is nothing else that needs to be done based on these findings. We do recommend establishing with a PCP and getting him followed up within the next 1 to 2 days to monitor his symptoms. If you have any concerns, please bring him back to the emergency department.
How old is Kai?
11 months.
Are you aware of what substances mom tested positive for today?
Yes.
Can you just tell us what your knowledge is of that?
She tested positive for cocaine and amphetamines. I think that's it.
Okay. Is there a reason why you had asked the doctors to perform a drug screen?
On our way to the hospital, mom provided us with a blanket, a toy, a bottle, and some formula. This was a 50-minute trip, so on the way we noticed he was getting hungry, and I was in the back seat with the baby, and I went to go make him a bottle. When I opened the bottle and I smelled the bottle, it smelled of intense alcohol, or like it just had a really strong odor to it, and I did not feel comfortable giving him formula out of that bottle, so we thought it'd be a good idea to get him tested.
And then the other allegations contained in here regarding her CPS history, how did you become aware of that background?
We got a new intake this morning. Is that what?
Oh, no, so I'm asking about, in the petition, there's a CPS history paragraph.
Yes.
And so how did you become aware that she had a CPS history?
Through investigating.
Did you like run her name through
Yes.
by SACWIS or
Yes, I
such
ran
registry?
into SACWIS, yes.
Okay, thank you. And it sounds like there's been, based on this, it looks like there's been substantiated CPS history regarding placing children at unreasonable risk, improper supervision, physical abuse, and threatened harm. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, no further testimony as relates to the factual basis.
Just one question, Your Honor. Could you share a copy after the court hearing of the document there regarding the child that you just read into the record?
That's not his child.
I realize that, but of what you just read into the record, could you share a copy of that?
The discharge
Your Honor?
record?
The discharge.
If I may, Mr. McFarland, we had provided this to all attorneys of record so far.
Thank you. I acknowledge I've received it.
But I would ask, thank you, Mr. Clark, for bringing that up, because I would ask that the court accept that document, and I do have a copy for the court.
Objections?
No objections.
No objection.
No objection.
Thank you, I will receive it. Thank you, Deputy. I'll mark it as petitioner's exhibit A for purposes of today. Any questions?
Just a few. Were you aware that Ms. Ford was struggling with homelessness throughout the pendency of this?
Yes,
And she indicated that she did take the 11-month-old to urgent care and got medication for that.
that's what she stated, but then yesterday when we went to go pick him up, she didn't provide us with any of those medications.
Okay. And did Ms. Ford request any services from you?
She requested that we assist with a hotel stay, so we provided her with a 2-night stay at the Carlton Lodge.
Okay. Did she request some therapy or substance abuse treatment resources?
She asked for us to provide her with a list of meetings within the area for NA meetings, and I did send her a list of meetings within Adrian.
Was there any outpatient treatment provided or any resources that she could get that at some point?
No.
And she's indicating that she asked for therapy.
Yes.
Was any resources provided with regards to that?
No.
And why was that?
She made statements that she would like to get into therapy. I do also recall her stating that she would like to receive these treatments, but I guess, can you restate that question?
So would you be willing to provide her now before the next court date of some substance abuse treatment, any type of therapy, or are you willing to work with her with regards to some rehabilitation?
Yes.
Thank you.
So my daughter.
Any questions, Ms. Underwood?
No questions at this time.
Very good. All right, are you satisfied with the advice of rights and the factual basis of the plea? Attorneys? Yes.
I am.
Yes.
Yes.
I do have just one question, Your Honor, based upon.
Well, she's just up there right now for purposes of the factual basis of the plea. Did you have something along those lines?
Yes, based upon the petition, I just wanted to verify.
All right, come on.
You're still requesting that the children with my client, with Christopher, that they remain in his care and custody. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat. Okay. Well, as it relates to the plea, I do find the plea to be knowingly, understandably, and voluntarily made, with full understanding of the consequences. I further find the record supports that one or more of the allegations contained in the petition have been shown to be true, and that jurisdiction is appropriate under the sections that the department has requested the court review, 712A.2B1, neglecting the proper care or necessary support as opposed to medical care, specifically as it relates to the youngest child and mom. Unfortunately, as it relates to the father, allowing them to make his children to be cared for by their mother, understanding her significant substance abuse and how that interferes with her parenting. And of course, subsection 2, the children's home with the mother is home or environment is characterized certainly by that use of substances and potentially criminality. We know she's appearing to us, having been recently apprehended, frankly, for a violation of probation and use of substances. And again, because the father has allowed the mother to caretake for the children under these conditions. It will be the order of the court that the children remain placed with, or I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 5 of the children, 5 or 6, 5 of them will be placed with Mr. Ford, and then we have one child who will be placed with a non-respondent father, and the final child, the youngest child, will remain in foster care. That is the safest and least restrictive under the circumstances, especially considering how ill he is at this point, and his extended needs and what's been identified as risks today on the record. We may have a legal father at our next juncture who will also be able to seek placement. But now would be your opportunity to make argument on any of those points on placement. Counselors?
Your Honor, we just stand behind the petition in our request. Thank you.
Mr. Friend.
We support the testimony of the worker regarding the 5 children. Remains my client.
Your client does have the right to seek placement today, clearly. Ms. Dumont, did you wish to make any argument as it relates to placement this morning?
I don't have, no objection.
Ms. Underwood, do you find that to serve the interest of the children?
I do, Your Honor, as long as the department continues to closely monitor Mr. Four with the children. I think that the allegations in the petition are concerning, as well as the criminal and CPS history. But as long as the department is working with Mr. Four, I believe that this is appropriate at this time.
All right, our next stage of proceedings will be the initial disposition for both parents. Between now and when we come back, the department or a representative of an agency will be reaching out to you to sit down and do some case services planning to target those areas that were identified today and try to get some services in place to support both of you on those points. We'll come back to review that, and the court will make that part of its orders moving forward as a way to look at whether or not you are making affirmative progress on those areas that have been identified as risk.
Checking my calendar, Your Honor.
Thank you. Monday, the 15th at 2:00 p.m.
Your Honor, will we
Second.
have DNA test back by then?
I'm not sure we would have it that quickly, but we can try.
I don't think we would. We would probably at that point just have referrals on.
And Your Honor, my client would like to give another name for a possible
It's
father.
between 2 of them, and I would like both of them tested at the same time, because it would just make more sense.
The name is Josh Johnston. When I asked for contact information, she indicated he lives in Maple Village.
I think that we have his contact information. He's listed in the petition, but I think I'll leave it to the department to discuss that referral with Mr. Casares as well as Mr. Johnson.
I can leave in the order both names.
Yeah, and then Your Honor, can we just also get a notice for putative father hearing to provide both gentlemen with that?
Yes, thank you.
Time are we looking at on the 15th, Your Honor?
2:00 p.m. Okay, Ms. Underwood,
I'm available.
Ms. Berger.
I'm not, Your Honor, but if we don't have DNA tests back by then, I would be comfortable just getting notes from the other attorneys after the hearing.
Very good. All right. Well, we appreciate your flexibility on that point. I think you're probably right. So we'll go ahead with our initial disposition on these two parents and the father hearing on that date and move forward as it relates to the potential legal father for the youngest child as we have that information available to us. All other prior orders will remain in full force and effect except as modified today by the court's findings. Unless there's any questions, that's all for tonight. All right, we are running a little bit late this morning. We discovered that one of the parents was arrested last night. We've got a hold of the jail, confirmed that through an officer that logged off just before we got online that she does not wish to participate in today's hearing, which is our initial disposition here. So that being said, let's get started with the rest of our appearances, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Nicole Underwood, legal guardian ad litem for the children.
Ms. Stasia Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Pelham.
Chelsea Pelham, foster care worker.
Michael McFarland, representing father. Please introduce yourself. Christopher Fuller, father.
Katarina Dumont representing mother before.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas, your microphone's a little quiet this morning. I just wanted to give you a heads up about that. And then whenever you're ready, Ms. Underwood, we'll look for your report.
Yes, I was able to make contact with 6 of the 7 children over the last reporting period. The one's not working. So I did get a number from Ms. Pelham this morning. I'm hoping that that one is a good number. I met with Kai, the youngest child, at his foster placement on Friday. Sat there and hung out with him for quite a while. He's an adorable little guy. very happy, very content. When the foster family did first take placement, they had noticed that Kai couldn't sit up, couldn't really do much of anything. He's now sitting on his own. They're able to get him into occupational and speech therapy as well. They are waiting for physical therapy. They're in a wait list, and I believe they have early on coming as well. So he's really thriving. They're working to figure out if he has a history of any type of medical care or vaccines. That way they're not doubling up on those, but he's doing really well where he's at, making a lot of progress in a very short time. I met with Wyatt at the Boys and Girls Club. He seems to be doing very well. He says that that's his happy place and that he's got a life there is what he said. So he's really happy. He's doing well there. He said that he's happy at Dad's. They've got a place that they were able to secure for 90 days, which is very good. So the kids all have somewhere to stay. I met with the other four children at their house with Dad, and they all seem to be doing well. The younger two are full of energy and just excited to have visitors over, so it was nice to talk with them. And then the two girls, Billy Ann and Lila, were also doing very well. So I think that their needs are being met in the places that they are with respect to the 6 out of 7 that I was able to meet with. And hopefully I can get in touch with Juan Casar so that I can meet with him as well.
Thank you. Testimony this morning, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. If Ms. Pelham can be sworn in.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Pelham, you are the foster care worker for this family, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you provided on or about April 19th a court report with a few attachments.
I did.
Included is an exhibit of like an alcohol swab with a baby bottle.
Yes.
Case service plan for mom and dad, then the medical records from U of M and a proof of service. Have you circulated any other documents since you've filed this report?
Yes. The only other documents that I've actually circulated was the 5598 for Native American heritage being sent out.
Okay. Let's see. Judge, I just want to make sure that everyone has received those documents, including the Native American search history.
Looks like I have those, including a Native American search set of documents that came in April 24th. Ms. Underwood, did you receive the initial court report as well as that supplemental edition?
I did receive the court report. I did not receive the other document.
I can get you that. I apologize. I forgot to send them to her. I did not realize she was the LGAO on this.
That's no problem.
Mr. McFarland?
Acknowledge.
Mr. Mark?
Your Honor, I didn't receive any documents, but Ms. Underwood did forward them to me, and then I can give Chelsea my email so she has it in the future.
All right, thank you. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Judge. And Ms. Pelham, are there any updates or modifications that need to be made to any of the documents that you've provided to the court today?
The only update is I did do a drug screen on Miss 4, and the results came in late last week, and she did test positive for amphetamines, cocaine, THC, and methamphetamines.
Okay. And do you recall about when you took that drug screen from her?
I want to say it was probably around April 18th. It was the day after she got out of jail.
Okay. And, okay, are there any other drug screens that she's completed?
No, I did refer her to Lenawee Development Corp and got her on colors. She is the color blue. However, I do not believe that she has followed through with any drug screens through LBC.
Okay. Currently, what is the permanency goal for the children?
Reunification.
Okay. And 5 of the children are with their father, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the child that is with Mr. Casares, have you been able to have contact with that child?
Yes, I have had contact with him a couple of times in the past month.
Okay. And I'm sure this is something you've already discussed with Ms. Underwood, but you're able to provide updated information to the best of your ability.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you. In your report, you indicate that there are DNA referrals sent out for the youngest child. Do you have any updates on that, whether they have been scheduled?
I do not. I did just reach out again to the woman who's scheduling them, but I have not heard back yet.
Okay, thank you. As it relates to the goal of reunification for Ms. 4, do you believe that the case service plan as presented today would support that goal?
I do.
And it adequately addresses the barriers to reunification at this time?
Yes.
And on that point, what would you say the substantial risk of harm is to the children if they were to be returned to her care and custody today?
At this time, she is in jail, so she could not take care and custody of the children. She does not have housing, transportation, and she still is struggling with substance abuse.
Okay. And during this period of time, has Mr. 4 or Ms. 4 for that matter, engaged in any voluntary services to address the conditions that cause the children to come into care?
Yes, they both have.
Okay. And can you just briefly highlight what Mr. 4 has done?
Yeah, Mr. 4 has participated completely with us. He is working with a program called Families First. It's an intensive home-based service that comes to his house a couple times a week that can help him do whatever he needs to do. And he has been in the process of getting all the kiddos into the pediatrician as well. And we're working on counseling.
Great. Your report indicated, and I don't know if I read this correctly, have all of the children then gone through a CTAC or that's been referred?
That's been referred.
Okay. And then what are some of the services that Ms. 4 has engaged in?
She has, in the car with me, she did call CMH and she did do a substance abuse intake assessment and she got referred to McCullough Vargas. And I know that she went one day. And she also did like a mental health intake through CMH and she did have an appointment on last Thursday at 9:30. I do not know if she went to it though.
And as it relates to those barriers that you mentioned earlier, like transportation, are you able to assist her in that area as well?
Yes, I have been picking her up, driving her places. I took her to housing help and I've offered to take her anywhere she really needs to go.
Were you able to discuss the fact that that bottle, which was included in this court report, actually, can you just tell me why that bottle alcohol screen was included in this court report?
That was included in this court report because we tested it after our last court hearing, so we figured it should be put into the court report.
Okay. And can you tell us a little history about that bottle? Like why was it in your possession? What made you want to test that?
So upon removal of Kai from Brittany, she provided one bottle to me and the CPS worker. The CPS worker did smell that bottle and it smelled strongly of alcohol. We did not use that bottle to feed him. However, because of that, we did feel it was necessary that Kai get drug screened as well as that bottle get tested as much as possible. So we did use an at-home like alcohol swab in the nipple of the bottle and it did come back positive for alcohol.
Okay. But the U of M reports indicate that the child did not necessarily test positive for alcohol in any urine screens other than the amphetamines and cocaine, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything about the children that you'd like to highlight to the court for the court today?
The only thing is I've spoken a lot with the older two kiddos, Billy and Wyatt, and they both are not at a place right now where they want to see their mom. They feel traumatized by her. And I do know, or I've been informed, allegations of Brittany continuing to try to reach out to Billy and contact her in any way possible that she can.
Would you recommend that a therapist weigh in on parenting time right now as it relates to those older children?
I think it would likely be beneficial, yes.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, do you know why Miss 4 was arrested last night?
All I'm aware of, there was a probation violation for the substance abuse. I heard allegations of she was potentially trafficking an 18-year-old and making her have sex with men and making her take drugs. That's what I was informed.
Okay. But you don't have any proof of that, and you're not necessarily saying that's what happened. You're just saying this is what you've been told so far.
Yes, those were the allegations I was told.
Okay. And the original petition includes concerns about sex trafficking as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you believe that parenting time with any of the children would pose a risk of harm to them?
At this point, due to Ms. Ford's history of not being very honest with me, I think that it could be concerning for parenting time. I know I've supervised a couple parenting times, and she's not super focused on parenting during those parenting times. She's kind of more focused on talking to me, talking about the case. When we did have a visit with all 7 children, and well, not all 7, there's about 5, because Billy and Wyatt didn't want to participate. She really did correct.
Refrain from the children's names.
Yeah, if we could.
I apologize, sorry. She did definitely parentify LF.
Okay. And that means that LF was the one who was responsible sort of for parenting the other children?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. And do you have any knowledge of any updates from like the child custody case? I believe that Mr. Ford and Ms. Ford had one from Hillsdale County, if I'm not mistaken.
I do not have any updates. I do not believe Chris has been able to make it to Hillsdale. He's struggling with transportation as well.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much for that update. Your Honor, I have no further questions of Ms. Pelham and would move to admit the court report with the including the ICWA documentation. Thank you.
No objections.
No objection.
No objection. Thank you. They are received. Questions, Ms. Dumont?
Ms. Pelham, you indicated that Ms. Ford's main issues are substance abuse and housing. Do you believe that an inpatient treatment program would be beneficial for her?
I do.
Okay, and would you be able to help her get into that?
I would be happy to help her.
Okay, and while she's in an inpatient, would she be able to have supervised parenting time as well if they offered Zoom or?
Yeah.
You'd be okay
Yep,
with that?
as long as it's okay with the facility, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, and if she is released and wants parenting time, do you believe that if that parenting time is supervised and she's drug screened before, that it would alleviate any of the concerns?
It could. It's not going to alleviate the situations where she's parentifying her children, but it could help.
Okay.
Her children.
Okay, and she did make some strides to try and get in with CMH?
Yes.
Okay, and you know, she's not here for me to be able to speak with, but do you believe that based on your recommendations that she will comply with what you recommend to her?
She made it very clear that she was okay with whatever I recommended and was willing to do the work.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further.
Mr. McFarland?
Thank you. My understanding is the elementary school was quite incredible in that they were able to find temporary 3-month transitional housing for my client
Yes.
children, right?
Yep.
Okay. My clients also discussed with you mother reaching out, contacting him, also through others trying to reach him about the children, correct?
Correct.
Would you support her not having any contact with my client except through you?
I have actually asked her to do that. So yes, I would be very supportive of that.
That was in an order, you would support that?
I would. Thank you.
I know my client has quite a lot on his case service plan. If we were to prioritize for him, what would that priority, you can give us maybe some top 3 or whatever.
I would say one of the top ones is a psychological. He has been referred and scheduled for that, I believe, in July. I don't have the exact date off the top of my head. And then just some counseling for him. He's had a rough life as well. And just continuing to stay sober.
Counseling, has that been scheduled?
We've talked about it. I don't know that he has moved forward with getting that scheduled yet.
Okay, if he needs assistance in doing that, he can reach out to you, am I correct?
He can.
Nothing further, thank you.
Ms. Underwood, any questions?
Yes. This wasn't brought up in the initial petition or in any updates, but
what what was the attendance like for the oldest child, BF, as far as attending school prior to the courts becoming involved?
Not good. She was doing mostly online schooling, and I don't believe that that was really followed through with either.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to pull or request any of the attendance records for the children?
I have not yet, but I can.
Okay. Would it be reasonable to add into the case service plan for both parties that the children do attend school regularly?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
You mentioned LF being parentified by mom. Can you tell me the age of her age?
10.
I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Any recross?
No, yeah.
No, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We return to your seat. Any other witnesses, Ms. Thomas?
No, Judge, thank you.
Ms. Dumont?
No, yeah. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
No witnesses.
Ms. Underwood?
No witnesses.
All right, comments in closing, Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Judge. At this time, we are just asking the court to adopt the case service plan. I think that it would be appropriate to add in that each parent would ensure that the children go to school, provided that those children are healthy. Additionally, would ask the court to consider parenting time for mom right now. It sounds like the two older children are really struggling with their relationship with her, and I think it might be appropriate for a therapist to weigh in on that. Additionally, given some of these behavioral concerns during parenting time, such as the parentification, we're not sure if she's sober. I think it would be appropriate to add in some safeguards there, and I would ask the LJL to weigh in on that, whether that is drug screens for parenting time and needing to be sober. And I know that we can't necessarily withhold parenting time unless there's the risk of harm to the children's physical health or mental well-being. I think that sort of putting the children on the back burner and only talking to the supervisor about the case does pose a risk of harm to the mental well-being, and just sort of adds in to the conditions that cause the children to come into care. With that, though, we would ask the court to enter the parents into the case service plan and set it for a standard 90-day review. Thank you.
Ms. Dumont, any comments?
Your Honor, my client is not here, so I don't know her position, but I did meet with her previously when she was incarcerated with regards to the last hearing we had. And she did advise me she wanted to get started with all of the recommendations. She was in contact with Ms. Cullen while she was in jail. I think now for issues with regards to substance abuse, if we can work on getting her inpatient, and maybe the criminal end of that will work on that as well. I think that's her best bet at this point, but I do know that she's serious about reunifying with her children.
Mr. McFarland?
Your Honor, my client would support mother being drug tested regarding her history and what we've heard about where she is right now. He's concerned about the mental health of the children if their mother is viewed in an intoxicated state. He would also like to have a no contact order that she not reach out to him, as she's been doing, or communicate through others to have visits with the children outside of the scope of the court ordered parenting time. Without being ordered, my client has already jump-started his case, so it's a good thing to have. He's cooperative. It's amazing that the school system was able to help him find transitional housing for 3 months, which is often a real big hurdle. So one hurdle is down, and I think we're on the right course. Thank you.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes, Your Honor. I think that I would also support drug testing prior to any visits with mom and the children. I think based on what I have discussed with the oldest two children, as well as just the behavior of LF and the things that she was expected to do during her parenting time, I would support
maybe suspending that parenting time until further therapy or some type of recommendation from a therapist could happen to support the needs of those oldest 3 children. As to the younger children, I think at this point, if the visits are supervised and are monitored as well as there's drug testing beforehand, I don't have any issues, I think, with that continuing. But if there are any additional issues that happen, I would support the department's position on making any adjustments needed in that area. But other than that, again, I think the children are doing well and where they're at, what's going on so far.
Did I hear you say that for parenting time for all 3 of the oldest children, that is effectively that should be, I mean, basically either at the discretion of the children or at the recommendation of a therapist, or just for the oldest?
The older 2, I think, have already made their position pretty clear, and I do think that they'll continue therapy or some type of support in that regard is important. But with LF, the 10-year-old, just based on behavior after visits as well as what's expected of her during the visits, I would recommend that a therapist help weigh in on parenting time moving forward. She's at a tender age and been put in a tough spot. I don't want her to feel pulled in multiple directions at this point. And I think some therapy and some support prior to any additional visits is probably a good idea.
All right, well, the court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's review hearing. Thank you, Ms. Pelham, for all of your efforts. They are certainly reasonable efforts, but they are also active efforts, offering to drive a parent around, making sure that you met with both parents and got their weigh in on the case services plan is very important. And thank you for paying attention to those pieces. Also find Ms. Underwood to be in satisfaction with her obligations as guardian ad litem. Once you're able to meet with that final child, if you could supply us all with a little affidavit on your visit, there's a form for that out there. I'm sure Mr. McFarland or somebody could direct it to that. Just a little indication that lets us know that you were able to meet with that child would be great. As it relates to the case services plan, I have reviewed that as well. I do think it's appropriate. It's targeted the specific areas that both parents are facing challenges in. I do think it's also appropriate to amend it to include that education piece, but I'll leave that to Ms. Pelham if you could maybe do that between now and when we come back for our next review hearing. So you can build that in a way that is sustainable for both parents. I know that Mr. Ford is still sort of in flux. We've got housing set up, sounds like for temporary purposes, but I'll let you work through that education piece with him. And hopefully with Ms. Ford, if she's able to overcome some of the challenges that keep getting her landed in jail, frankly. I also want to say that it seems to me where I'm sitting that Mr. Ford is going to need some support. That a lot of the issues that came that brought him into care included the fact that there's 5 of these kids, right? So it may not be a sustainable situation, at least at this moment, to ask him to provide everything that these 5 kids need, especially considering the trauma that the kids have been through, his own challenges that he has to work through. So I would encourage you to continue working with him to find friends and family to help provide respite care. And even if that means looking at the department's resources for that, I would appreciate any efforts you could do on his behalf. Of course. As it relates to Ms. Ford, clearly her challenges remove her from the situation today. Unfortunately, she's not here to speak for herself on what those are currently. She's chosen not to do that, which is not a great sign. What it also means is Mr. Ford is going to have to really make sure that whatever plan he gets in place is sustainable for the long term, at least at this moment. Children were recently removed in April, but to have her continuing to struggle with substances and some of the other challenges that she has is not a good sign, frankly. So the children are in the safest and least restrictive placements available to them at this time. That includes 5 of the children with their father, Christopher Ford, and 1 of the children with his father, and of course the youngest child in foster care. All of the needs of the children are being met. Those are the safest and least restrictive circumstances for these children at this time, for many of the reasons that were explored on record today. That will be the order of the court moving forward as well. I will include as requested that Ms. Brittany Ford not have any contact with Christopher Ford, at least during this next reporting period, and specifically about parenting time. She needs to respect what's in place for these children and respect the oldest two children in their request to suspend that parenting time, at least for now. I also agree that until we have a recommendation as it relates to the third child, that parenting time for her should also be, I'm gonna make it at the discretion of the department at this point, understanding that I know that our next reporting period is gonna be 3 months, but I would like, before we give any parenting time to Brittany with this child, that we have a counselor. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that we don't have a counselor in place yet. So do you have the trauma assessment scheduled by any chance?
They're not scheduled yet, it's just referred.
Do we know how far out those are getting scheduled?
Normally they're about a couple of months.
Yes, that was my concern. All right, so maybe you could check with Renee Moore or somebody else that could just give us a quick assessment as it relates to B, W, and LF on parenting time. Try to get that done. I would hope we could get that done within at least the next 30 days. So, and after that, we'll make the parenting time at the discretion of the HHS. So how I'm going to phrase it in the order is that parenting time with those two children is going to be suspended for the next 30 days or until we get a recommendation from a counselor, whichever comes first. And then parenting time for those three children will be at the discretion of DHHS. Of course, the rest of the children may have their supervised parenting time as available and as she is available to them. I don't have those same indications of a potential risk of harm to the mental health of the younger children at this point in time, although I can certainly see how it would be a risk. So prioritizing the assessment on the first three children, of course, we'll still be looking for an assessment, whether that comes out of the trauma assessment on parenting time or whatever counselor, to help guide that moving forward. I also agree that drug testing prior to visits is appropriate. Clearly, Ms. Ford is struggling to control her impulsivity, and much of that, I'm sure, can be attributed to that drug use, and it is seems to be affecting her parenting time, or at least creating a barrier to her productively using her parenting time. So I agree, and that will be a requirement prior to any parenting time. And if there's any signs of active intoxication, I would expect you to terminate that visiting. I think that's it. With the exception that we have to get you a review date in 3 months.
Your Honor, is it possible to add something about mom not trying to directly contact the oldest, because I believe she has her own devices, so that mom not directly contact, I guess, any of the minor children directly?
So outside of DHH sanctioned contact, no contact outside of that. Judge, any thoughts, objections on that point, counselors?
We support that.
Your Honor, I can't support or deny. I don't know what my client would want.
Very good. And if you do get a chance to talk with her and she would like you to bring that to my attention, feel free to file something in the meantime. Or of course, to talk to your fellow counselors. All right, I will add that language in the order as well. Okay. I have 11 o'clock, 9 or 11 on Monday, July 15th. Any preference on 9 or 11?
Preference, yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and schedule it for 11 a.m. on Monday, July 15th. That will be our next review. And unless there's any questions.
When we're off the record, my client would like to provide his new address to the court.
Judge.
Any other questions?